I thought it was going to happen like that, but it didn't happen. So what happened after high school, after college, I
A,
should say?
a big old butt.
Yeah. Welcome to the Look Like Somebody podcast. I'm your host, Ricky C. Simmons. You know, man, I don't even know how to start this show off with, but I'm just going to be real honest with you. I want to show love to all the people that are tuning into the podcast and all the people that are subscribing. I appreciate that. And for those of you that have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get this message out to as many people as we can. Because, see, positivity, that's my thing. You know, I understand before you say anything, I understand that negativity gets a lot of traction. That's cool if that's what you're into. But I'm just the opposite. I'm into positive, and I don't take anything for granted. So being positive, I call it PMA. That's short for positive mental attitude. Uh, Not taking anything for granted, treating people the way I would like to be treated. But the key to that is I don't expect it in return. That way, I don't ever get let down. I feel good on the inside for trying to help others. And if they don't receive the help, that's not on me. And, you know, it brings me to my guest. My guest is very, very, very good at what she does. And she's about helping people as well. But you know what? Before I introduce her, I got to admit to you that not only has my guest been through stuff, so have Ricky. I've been through a lot of trials and tribulations and a lot of adversity. And I think that's why I focus so much on the positive, because I already know what the negative looks like, and I don't like the outcome. I don't like the consequences. I don't like nothing that comes with it. So my guest, Gayl, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here, Ray. Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, I'll be honest with you. I've never really met you in person, but I
Mm.
feel like I know you. And the thing I want to explain, or I want to show in this podcast, is even through adversity and the negative trials and tribulations that life will throw at everyone,
Mm-hmm.
there are a few people out here like yourself, and I like to throw myself in that category as well, that actually have figured out a way to turn life into a positive.
Mm-hmm.
But but in order for us to really make that point, we got to go back, and we got to talk about the things that a lot of people don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you well enough to know that you don't have a problem with that, because the end result and what we're continually doing on a day-to-day basis, I think, is the most important part of this podcast. So, Gayl, basically, let's start off by saying what. Well, let's back up all the way back. Where are
Okay.
you from?
I'm originally from Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm a Jersey
What?
girl.
Jersey City. Jersey
Jersey
City,
City.
girl. Okay. And is that where you grew up? I take it.
I did. I grew up in Jersey until about early high school days, and I think my mother's fight and plight to save our lives and give us a better a chance to get away from the direction in which we were going. She transferred her job to Florida. Ahead of her transferring, she shipped us down under false pretenses that we were going for 2 weeks to visit our grandmother. And yet here I still am 30 plus years later.
Say that little 2-week trip turned into a lifetime.
The longest 2 weeks of my life.
Now, what was her reasoning for sending you guys? I think it was you and your brother. Is that correct?
That is correct. We were kids, so we were definitely embracing our environment. Jersey City, back in the 70s, the late 70s, when we were old enough to we were latchkey kids. My mother worked, so we would go to school, come home, be in the house or not, but we were all over the place, every chance we got. And I'll tell you, my brother, he was truly a street kid, and I was his shadow. I followed behind him. So whatever he was into, I was into too. And it wasn't really ladylike, the things that I was getting into, or if my brother got into a scuffle or a fight, I was fighting with him,
Right,
and had
right.
I not fought with him, I got in trouble when I got home anyway. So I'm gonna follow the rules.
So you might as well jump in while you got a chance.
Right, right.
Now, I understand that the reasoning for her to ship you down there was really trying to help you as far as the future was concerned. Is that correct?
Right,
Because
absolutely.
you were
That's
going through some
true.
stuff in Jersey. And I've done
Oh
a little
yeah.
bit of research on Jersey City, man. I mean, it's got quite the reputation for
Shoot.
yeah, I'm trying to say this nicely. They got a reputation for not always being positive.
It was so much that we could have gotten into. But the direction, like I said, that we were going in, now that I am a mother, I understand her plight to get us out of there. But at
Uh-huh.
the time, we had no understanding. We we did not want to go. We would have given her pure hell. So she had to tell us, we were just going to visit, because she knows we would have did everything in our power not to go, not to
Right.
move. So she did what she had to do as a parent, because of, my brother started getting involved in gangs. The gang activity was increasing. He was more and more things happening to him. He got his bomber coat cut off of him, like cut off his body, by
You got what
the
cut off
people
of him?
he had a bomber coat
Oh,
that he
okay,
had
okay,
gotten for
okay.
Christmas. And
Okay.
somebody wanted the coat. Okay.
Ah,
So,
gotcha.
he was willing to fight for the coat. He wasn't giving up the coat. So during the fight, and they cut the coat off of him. And
Oh,
I think
wow.
that was her last straw.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I really I understand growing up in a difficult neighborhood, I'm gonna say. I can see how that can impact long term on being successful. So she made a move and she had to disguise it as a vacation to get you
Yes,
guys to actually go. Is that correct?
that's correct. That's
And how
correct.
did
And
that yeah, how did that
it
turn
was,
out?
it wasn't out of the ordinary for us to be going to Florida, because our grandmother lived in Florida and we would go to Florida every summer. So it
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
out of the ordinary, and we would only go for just about a week or two. So we would, I remember graduating from 8th grade, because they do that up there. I graduated from PS number 34, still had my beautiful white graduation gown on, had my corsage on. We took pictures in front of our house after graduation, and we was like, all right, see y'all later. We'll be back. And we went to the airport, graduation ensemble on and everything. Sh-
Wow,
We
that quick.
She got us straight to the airport, and we were out, never to see Jersey City for I don't it was a couple of years before we even went back, but that was it for us.
But now now is your brother older than you?
He is. He one I'll say 10 and a half, 11 months older than me. I said this
Okay.
before. My father didn't give my mother a break. My
So
brother was
y'all
born. We're very close in age.
got now when you first got down to Florida,
Mhm.
what was that like for you?
Again, we were used to coming, but the idea of having to stay, it was traumatizing. We couldn't embrace that we were not going back to Jersey City. We had things in mind, we had plans, block parties were going to be going on that we was already planning, and when we get back, we was going to be at these block parties and the Labor Day weekend, parties and cookouts. And it was going to be my first year going to Snyder High School in Jersey City, because everybody wanted to go to Snyder. And so I was ready. I had plans, Ricky. I had plans.
I got you. And those plans got interrupted by a 2 week vacation that lasted a little longer than 2 weeks.
In a nutshell.
Wow. I got to admit, your mom was pretty smart on that, though, because I'm sitting there thinking if she had told y'all the truth, you're right. It
Go.
probably would have been way more difficult to get y'all to take that trip. So I'm gonna say big shout out for her having the hindsight and the
Mhm.
foresight to see that your future in Jersey City needed to be changed.
Absolutely.
Now, when you realized that you weren't coming back in 2 weeks, you said you were traumatized, huh?
Oh my gosh. I couldn't fathom living in Florida. It was nice to visit because to us, Florida was country. It was slow and it was country, but our family was here and we enjoyed coming to see family for a little while and we go back to Jersey.
Right. Now, what part of Florida did you go to?
We went to, my grandmother lived in Tampa. So we originally went to Tampa, Florida, and my aunt and uncle had recently in the spring of 1985 relocated to Clearwater, Florida, a place I had never heard of before in my life. I think I remember going to the beach. My father took us to the beach, when we came to visit one summer in Clearwater, but that's all we knew about it. So we went to Tampa. We visited my godparents. My aunt and uncle were our godparents. And my aunt was the one that told us we weren't coming back because my mother kept trying to string us along.
Oh, okay. Mom just didn't want to let y'all know.
She,
She was probably more concerned about how y'all was going to react to not coming
yeah.
back.
Mm.
That's smart. I give her credit. So you say your aunt, she's the one that brought it to y'all attention that you guys are here.
Yeah, she got tired of the questions. And
Ah,
we're looking at the date and usually we get instructions like, okay, wash your clothes, you're not going to fly and travel with dirty clothes. Have your stuff ready by this date. Y'all can relax on that date. We're going to leave and go to the airport at this time. And I noticed as it's time to get ready to go, nobody was giving us like the timeline of what we had to do to prepare to fly back home. So
wow.
I started asking questions. My brother having a ball. He's swimming every day. He out playing with, I'm like, well, hold up, yo. Something ain't right here. So she got tired of the questions and she basically just broke it down. She was like, y'all not going back.
Wow. Well, I guess my question to you is when you realized that you weren't going back to Jersey, did you I mean, how did you decide to make this? I mean, did you adjust very easily, or was it hard for you? I know you say you've been there in the summers and y'all would stay a couple of
Right.
weeks, but knowing that you're going
Mm.
to be there full time, what kind of effect did that have on you?
You talking about my bubble burst that I wasn't going to Snyder High School. I wasn't going to be a majorette in the Snyder High School parade. All these ideas I had for myself. We originally were supposed to be living in Tampa and some dynamics changed and we end up staying full time in Clearwater with my aunt and uncle. My mom came down, got us registered for school. It was heart wrenching. I'm almost reliving the anxiety because I remember they took us to this school and it looked like a after school special school, so that we used to watch on TV, the after school specials where we were used to going to school in a brick building with doors and things. And this was an open air school. It was very different. And all I kept saying was, how do I get back to Jersey? I don't want to be here
Wow. So basically, you didn't initially. Apparently, you weren't happy at all.
at
Did this
all.
ever did this ever lead you into any negativity?
I became just kind of introverted, and that's not normally my personality because while I'm staying to myself, not trying to make friends, not being friendly because I don't want to be here, I'm devising a plot and a plan on how am I going to get back to Jersey City. That was at the top of
Wow.
my mind every single day for months, for months.
So when did you finally accept the fact that Jersey City is not happening? When did you accept that?
Uh, I think when we finished freshman year, when freshman year was over, the following year, and I thought we would be able to go home for the summer, just like when we lived in Jersey. They sent us to Florida for the summer. So I'm like, well, we'll go back to Jersey for the summer, and I'm going to ask my aunt, my other aunt, can I live with her? I'm gonna get a job. So I was still devising a plan, but my mother, she just sat me down because she saw I was not letting it go. And then she gave me her reasoning for my brother. And then she gave me her reasoning for me. So she gave me some insight into things that she saw that I didn't even know was happening around me. And
Wow.
that made me think a little differently. Like, wow, she was trying to save our lives. Because as kids, we don't see what adults pay attention to. So when
Correct.
she opened my eyes that summer of 1986, that's when I tried to chill a little bit and try to adjust.
Now, once you got to that point to where you knew you was not going to be able to go to Snyder High, and you knew that Jersey was no longer a part of the deal,
Hmm.
were you still productive, or did you rebel? Tell us about that.
Um, oh no, I didn't have the luxury of rebelling because my mama didn't play that.
Okay.
So I didn't have the
Okay.
luxury of doing that rebellious thing. But what they did do, my mom and my aunt and uncle, they opened up the opportunity of exposure and exploring some of a new place. They started showing us things that we wouldn't normally see in Jersey, and gave us and told us to really think really hard about whether we wanted to embrace something new or we wanted to keep ourselves in a box.
Right.
And that's when I started exploring, going to the beach, you know, learning different places, going to the marina. So I started exploring this new place, this new day.
Hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, now I'm assuming here, and you correct me if I'm wrong because I don't know, but I'm guessing you went on and finished high school there in Florida. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I did. I finished school in Florida, went to college in Florida. Uh, I didn't finish college because it was some other things going. Learned a new way to disappoint my mom. Dropped out of college because I thought I was moving to Texas to get married. Didn't happen, but still continued on to still find my way. I'm no longer, feeling compelled to get back to Jersey because now I'm involved. I have a life. I have friends. I'm a
Right.
part of a community. So by this time, as I've graduated, I'm growing into my adulthood. I've found my way. So I thought, and that life was just going to be gravy from there on out.
Hmm. Okay. Well, sometimes when we think like that, there's usually I thought it was going to happen like that, but it didn't happen. So what happened after high school? After college, I
A,
should say.
a big old butt. And in
Okay.
one
You
mind,
want to
a big
you,
old
you want to
butt.
share that with us?
um, a big butt came, things changed. I didn't move to Texas to get married. That relationship, ended. That was my first experience of, heartbreak. Um, so that was a tumultuous time for me because once I see something in my head and I'm committed to the idea, it's already a reality for me. I just start positioning and maneuvering myself to get to that point. And I've always done that, as a child. I just may not have used those powers for good all the time. But I did at that point, not rebelling, but I just really started separating myself from people. And that's when I started teaching myself how to emotionally separate myself from people.
Wow. You know, I was I think at the beginning of the show I was talking about not taking anything for granted
Hmm.
and trials and tribulations. I mean, it sounds to me that you've dealt with a lot of adversity for whatever reason. I think I call it personally, I call it life. But when you were going through all of these changes, for lack of
Mhm.
ways of putting it. Uh, the situation in Texas fell through. Uh, College, did you go back to college or what did you do after that?
Yeah, I returned to my scholastic goals, but it was years later. I was a grown, full blown adult. So a lot of years went by, and I thought about just trying to go back because I know that's what my mother wanted me to do, but it was just something in me that I just could not do it because I began to hate it. I began to hate
Gotcha.
the idea of going back to school out of embarrassment, that I did not, finish and I dropped out. So it was embarrassment, it was fear. I was still going through my own emotional roller coaster, if you will. So I felt like I would just stay on my own track and still find my way through the world. I ended up leaving my mother's home. I moved out. I think I was 22. Um, Again, more disappointment, disappointed my mother, moved out of my mom's home. I moved 2 hours away to a place where I had no family, didn't really know anybody other than somebody I was dating. And my mother was not happy about that. But life started happening. And as I look back, just in hindsight teaches us a lot. I saw how I was just orchestrating my own trials. I was building this road to a down a perilous hill that I just started allowing myself to just snowball, and it happened over time, and it lasted for a while, and it took me a lot of years to fight my way to be honest with myself about how I ended up in certain places and spaces. I had to look at myself in the mirror.
And that's sometimes very difficult to do. And the reason why I say that is because I personally can relate to that. A lot of these choices, I'm going to say that we make as humans,
Mhm.
we bring on a lot of this stuff ourselves. And sounds like to me, you're doing a marvelous job of self-sabotaging during this period after you dropped out of college. Is that safe to assume?
Yeah, I would have never admitted to it because, I thought I was doing what I had to do because of what had happened to me. It was all about what had happened to me. And I continue to have that victim mentality because I held on to one trauma and I allowed it to dictate my every move. Years later, I was still allowing that to dictate my every move, that I wasn't going to look back. I wasn't going to trust people. I wasn't going to allow myself to be close to anyone or anybody close to me. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to disappoint myself. I'm not going to let anybody to hurt me. So it was the victim, 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 victim. Woe is me, woe is me. Everybody is out to get me. I don't trust anybody. So whatever I do and whatever decisions I make are valid. That is the speech I gave myself, knowing inside my insides was churning because that's not who I was naturally. I wasn't my natural self. I built this persona as a defense mechanism. And I did it for
Right,
many
right.
years. I did that for years up until recently to 2021. I learned how to let that go and rewrite my story and be true to my true self. And it's still every day is a learning opportunity, but a lot of years I wore that brick wall.
Well, I just first of all, I'm gonna say this. I think by you being so transparent with us, that you're going to help a lot of people, which is what you already do, and we'll get to that later. But I just want you to know that uh, courage is what I see from the fact
Thank
that
you.
you was willing to go through this and come out the other side and
Mhm.
and be willing to share it. And the reason why I bring that point up is because um, I travel all over this country speaking, you
Mhm.
know, and I love what I do, but a lot of my speeches are based on Ricky throwing himself under the bus with the hopes that I can help someone else not make the same mistakes.
Mhm.
And I can relate to what you're saying. But I do also want to say this. It takes a lot of courage to admit to total strangers that my life is not perfect, because a lot of times people will look at the current situation or the current appearance, and then they will
Mhm.
assume that everything has always been great. You ain't never been through nothing. So how can you help me with something? But see, a lot of people suffer in silence. So therefore, I, like yourself, I took it on myself to basically throw myself under the bus to help others. And that's what I know we're going to get to that, but I just want to bring that point to people that may be listening. Just because things don't start off the way you got it planned, that's no reason to feel like it can never turn around and be how you want it. And that's what I'm getting from you. I mean, because I know you have shared some stuff saying, man, I've been through this, I've been through that. But when you do it publicly, it's one thing to do it privately, but
Mhm.
when you do it publicly, it takes on a life of its own. And it inspires hope in others, because a lot of people think just like you were thinking with the victim mentality. Man, woe is me. Everybody's against me. And that's not
Mhm.
always the case. I mean, I'm not saying
Mhm.
you don't have people against you. I personally, I like to call them haters, but that's a Rickyism. I think
Mhm.
people are going to be who they are. I think genuinely people want to see you do well. I just don't think they want to see you do better than them. So therefore, I think that's where a lot of I know for myself, I'm speaking for Ricky now,
Mhm.
trust issues. That's where a lot of my trust issues come from, because you would think when you're trying to do something positive that everybody should be on board with you. And that's not always the case. Now, when you finally figured out
Mhm.
that this victim mentality that you were using for years to self-sabotage is the way I'm taking it, what was a turning point for you?
Um, when my mother died,
Oh,
that
wow.
was um that was the proverbial brick wall that I ran into. That's when I battled with depression and complex anxiety, grief stricken, and it was a lesson that I've never wanted to learn. If I had known that I had to go through that and survive and go through life without my mother, I would have said no, thank you. I would have turned my back. I would have went the other direction. Um, that was a hard blow for me. I wasn't no who's prepared for that, but I
Yeah,
didn't
right.
understand that. I didn't know how to deal with grief. In our community, we don't talk about it because we think we go to the funeral and they're buried and you just tie up all the loose ends and you just keep on living. You're going to be sad. You're going to cry and it's okay. It's your mama. You're going to be okay. And that was, no, that was so far from the truth. I was not okay. I was not. And I ended up in the hospital a couple of times and then I had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And that was the point where the times where I thought I wanted to die because my mother wasn't here. My mother taught me a lot of things while I was growing up, and I am so thankful for her. But one lesson she didn't teach me was how to live without her. And
Yeah.
that is where I struggled the most. When she left, it was like she sucked my whole life out of the universe with her because I didn't know how to exist. So that was a moment of edification that I had to really literally fight for my life.
You know, you hit on a real t- tough subject for me. I've suffered the loss of both parents, so I can relate. Uh,
So
I
that's
know
good.
there's no plan for losing a parent or
Mhm.
losing anyone that's important. I lost my mother first, and I did not handle it well at all. I mean,
Mhm.
when I look back on that, uh, gosh, I mean, the way I carried myself at her funeral was unacceptable. The way I looked at everybody that was at the funeral,
Mhm.
unacceptable. Uh, so I can understand that wall you're talking about. You know,
Mhm.
I I will say this: I did handle my dad's funeral a few months later a lot better than I did my mom's. But man, I don't know. It was something about mom, because I got to looking back over my life and I'm looking at all these self inflicted things that or choices that I was making that affected my
Mhm.
life and their life as well. But mine was mostly addiction. So I I made choices and they had this thing that that's very rare in my opinion in today's society is called unconditional love.
Mhm.
I don't I'm not saying it doesn't exist today, but me personally, I don't see it as clearly as I saw it with them because in my own situation, my parents died trying to save Ricky. So I can see where losing your mom it was like something you weren't prepared for. I mean, because you can't prepare for it because it doesn't. There's no instructions that comes with that. After you lost your mom, tell us about the turnaround.
It was work. And it was work that I was committed to not do. And thankfully, one of my colleagues saw the spiral. She saw that I was in crisis. I didn't know what that was at the time, but she understood mental health very well and she got me some help. And I was into a 14-week intense group therapy program. And I tried to wiggle my way out of that, but I had committed therapists, clinical psychologists, licensed mental health counselor. I had a whole team, and it was a team of people that I never knew that I was going to need in life. And after about, I want to say about 4 or 5 weeks in, I stopped fighting because someone in that group just opened my eyes to how how important the breakthrough is, and when I had an interaction with her, I will never forget her. And I was trying to silence her from sharing. I was like, you can't tell these people all of your business like that. You know we're not supposed to tell our business.
Right,
And from
right,
her heart and soul, she said, I don't know what you've gone through, but I need this breakthrough. I need it. And I'm not going to let this time pass me by. And it opened my eyes to that. My breakthrough was there, but I was continuing to fight the breakthrough. And I was again lining myself up to stay in victim mentality. I didn't want the responsibility of moving forward to heal and to grab the tools that I needed to grow through the grief and learn from that loss that I was suffering. And I had a great counselor. I had a great team. And slowly, the tools they gave me, and I started opening up and being honest with myself because sat in group therapy and for like 4 or 5 weeks, just lying, not
yeah,
being honest or transparent, going through therapy without any honesty. So I still wasn't helping myself.
right. Well, I think that's a big part of trying to turn your life around when you've made a series of bad choices.
Hmm.
I always use this term uh, that I learned while I was in treatment. It was called denial. And I ain't talking about that river in Egypt neither. I'm talking about,
Right.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
denial is real, and
Yes.
it's much easier to deny than, like you say, to open yourself up and face the facts. Um, I was I was so intelligent. And that's the one thing I think that hurts a lot of people that make bad
Hmm.
choices, especially the people that are intelligent, is they're so smart, they outsmart themselves. And I'm a victim of that. And I can speak on that because I'm one of those. I actually call myself a genius. I thought I was the smartest human being on the planet. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until 10 treatment centers later, 9 of which I graduated, that I actually realized that I ain't as smart as I think I am when it comes to certain things. And
Right.
denial was one of those things. And I'm so glad to hear you say that until you got past what I would call denial,
Mm-hmm.
then you was able to actually make some progress in a positive way. Is that correct?
That's correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell us about the bounce back or the progress. What
Uh,
was that
you
like?
know, trials didn't stop. I just had to understand how committed I was going to be to living and capturing the power I had to rewrite my story and author whatever next steps and new chapters. I was responsible for that. And I took the responsibility away from other people, by laying expectations on people who may or may not know you had these expectations. So I had to
Right,
really turn everything around on myself and understand that everything that I was looking for already resided in me. And it took a lot of work, but once I overcame, I took control of my health. Um, I owned my part in the autopsy of my marriage. My marriage fell apart, and what I thought was the worst things happening as I went through that trial. You know, the marriage fell apart. My husband left. I still had my kids, and I was holding on to that pain. When I learned how to let that go, when I learned how to own up to my stuff and not look at it in anybody else's bags. I had to look in my own backpack and realize why I was so weighed down. And everything that was in that backpack that was weighing me down, well, I put it in there. So I was
right,
responsible to take it
right.
out so that I could elevate, so that I could be lifted, and I've learned how to share. And you hear people say, Rick, I know you've heard people say this before, that they're self-made and they got it out of the mud, they did it by themselves. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that, because when we meet people, we take gems and nuggets from people that we meet along the way. And I
Correct.
learned a lot from people on my journey. And one young lady that I met, she helped me embrace telling my story, because I used to be embarrassed. I used to be embarrassed
Yeah.
about what I went through. I was embarrassed to tell people that I went through depression and anxiety. My family didn't know. They knew something happened to me. They knew I had been hospitalized. They knew that I struggled to be able to talk on the phone with them. They didn't know. They didn't know I had a heart attack until I wrote my memoir, Pressure. And they found out when they read the book.
That's then this is a really great conversation because it's a conversation that a lot of people are more open to having it in private than they are in public. And that's what I'm getting just what I wanted to get out of this podcast with you because, you know, let me say it this way. It is hard to admit when things didn't go well because there is a certain level of embarrassment that comes with admitting that, hey man, I messed up right
Mhm.
here. I
Right.
could have done this. So, but what I always tell myself is I believe, and this is a personal thing with me, I believe if I take all of my troubles or all of my problems and throw them on the floor and ask everybody that I know to do the same, I got a pretty good idea that I'd rather just pick my own problems back up
See,
versus picking up someone else's because
yeah.
uh, it's hard, man. It's
Yeah.
hard, but at least when you pick up your own problems, you know you got a better understanding of why these are problems. Like you referenced, you said you put them in the bag. It wasn't
Hmm.
like it wasn't like this just fell out of the sky and fell on top of you. No, Gil, you earn those things. And see,
Right.
and I speak this way because I'm the same way. See, I'm not proud of all the mistakes I made. Please don't get that from this. I'm not proud of them. But I think when I was able to admit them, and especially publicly in front of people I don't know, it it was really kind of empowering because I think a lot of times people are afraid to admit things because they feel like it's going to be held against them later on or whenever an opportune time happens where I'm gonna bring that up. You remember when you did this and you did that? Well, see, today I'm up under the bus so much on my own that when people Google me, they
Right.
get disappointed. They get disappointed because I've already owned that, and
Right.
I can't go back and change it. But I know for a fact you have made some changes, and that's what I want to go into now. I want to talk about the you've already shared pretty much the train wreck. I mean, and I'm not minimizing nothing. Don't take it that way, but I mean, depression, anxiety, I mean, heart attack. I mean, it don't get much more serious than that. And somehow you figured out a way to turn it all around. I would like for you to share with us what have you been doing since the turnaround?
Oh, it's amazing when I look back on it, Rick. Right now, in every single day, I am embracing, my light, my power, and I've learned how to embrace the journey and share my story with others so that it could be a survival guide for someone else because I came so close to not surviving. I came so close to feeling like I didn't have anybody to talk to that would understand what I was feeling or what I was going through. So when I shared my story and I went live with someone on Instagram, and it was my first time ever publicly sharing just a minute piece of my story. And it was so many women in my DMs on Instagram sharing, like, oh my God, you helped me so much. You don't know how much I need. It was an overflowing outpouring of women responded to the little bit of light that I share. I didn't even share everything, but I was embracing starting to do that. And that helped me. That gave me the momentum to keep going and doing that. And that in that point, I became a certified master life coach. And I did that for 2 years. After 2 years as a certified master life coach, I started seeing the tools that women needed more often, which was to deep dive into why we make these decisions and where these belief systems come from. So I went into the certification program as a cognitive behavior life coach. And that opened up not even just for my community, but for myself. I learned so much. I mean, sometimes you think, okay, I've learned this. Let me just try to perfect it and develop it. No, sister. I had to go through that cognitive behavior certification, and I was my first client because I had to go in and do the work on myself first because I thought I had done the work. And then I come to find out as I continue to grow, as I continue to unveil things about myself and learn new things about myself, I had to give myself permission to have new pieces of me and learn her and understand her and share her also.
You know, I want to take this moment and we'll get back to everything else you're doing. But
Mhm.
if you had to offer some advice to anyone that's suffering
Mhm.
in silence, what would that advice be?
To to keep it short, you know, I would want people to know that they are allowed to give themselves three things on any given day, every single day. And it's to give themselves grace, to give themselves a chance, and to give themselves permission. We don't
Mm.
have to forget our past because we use lessons, from the past, but we use that to fuel our future because there is a future for us and the future is bright. I think taking that energy, that threshold is a beast. Getting across that threshold to embracing, something new for ourselves, life is not going to be perfect, but we have a choice to make whether we're going to do it wholeheartedly, unapologetically, and learn lessons from it, or we're going to allow ourselves to be the wicked warden and imprison ourselves in our mind and in the past. The choice is ours. The threshold is going to always be there. It's what decision are you going to make? Are you going to cross over into the something new? Because we already know what the negativity and the despair looks like. And we have to stop being comfortable in that place.
Man, it's great advice. I'll say this. I think it's real important that I keep trying to find people, which is it gets a little tougher because I I look for people like you to be on my podcast because I want people to realize that this situation that we're dealing with called life is real.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people use the saying, you know, you only live once and then you die. Well, I disagree with that too. I think you live every day. You die
Actually.
once. That's just
Hmm.
my perception of it. And I try to encourage people to understand that, yes, life is not fair. Uh, being a Texas guy, country boy from Greenville, Texas, growing up, fair really meant to me the state fair would come to Dallas every year, and boy, we couldn't get over to Fair Park fast enough to get to that fair. But they were
Hmm.
taking advantage of us in the fair. I mean, these games are rigged. A lot of things wasn't fair. So
Right.
I don't have a lot of positive things to say about fair because
Hmm.
life is going to be what life is going to be. And how we deal with it and the choices that we make, I think is very important. And to me, it sounds like you had some choices to make and you made some marvelous choices because for you to achieve the things that you have achieved and are still achieving after you went through what you went through, hey man, to me that's big, and that's the
Like,
kind of spotlight I want to shine on people like yourself because I want people to understand. There's a lot of people out here that thinks that they. I mean, and I'm not knocking anybody that does this. Before I say this, but a lot of people live in a fantasy world. That's what I call
hmm.
television.
Hmm.
Television to me is a fantasy world. I'm not against television. I'm not anti nothing. The thing is, they'll show you, for example purposes, a lot of television will show you things that, that makes you desire to have them. But
Right.
what they don't tell you is the stuff that you had to go through to get to that. And that's what I'm trying to do with these podcasts is I'm trying to educate people on, hey, it's okay to not have had a perfect life.
Hmm.
You know, it's okay to not have every day go the way you want. Uh, I think it's real important that you figure out who you are, not who people say you are or
Hmm.
how people look at you. I don't. I think it's real important that you do a lot of self evaluation so that once you make this turnaround for the positive, then you actually have an opportunity to put together your life, whatever time you may be blessed to have left. You will have the opportunity to have a quality life that you are proud of and you're okay with. And sounds like to me, you go out of your way to help people do that. And the reason why I can recognize that is because that's exactly what I do. I, uh, I, I would rather be uncomfortable to make others comfortable. And that's what you did by sharing your story, getting all those Instagram DMs. People are starving for positive.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the powers that be don't want positive to be at the forefront. They want everybody divided. They want everybody upset with each other. Hey, man,
Hmm.
look, there's enough. I mean, there's enough on this planet for everybody. And for whatever, since life is unpredictable, I highly recommend that people take your advice and make some good choices and put together whatever time you may have left. Put together a positive life that you can feel good about. I want you to also tell us I know you do a podcast and you do a lot of other things, but Tell us about these women that you guys get together and do these podcasts. Man, I think that's amazing, and I think I also want you to tell people how they can tune in and check out your show.
Oh, Rick, thank you for opportunity to share that. I am one fourth of the Spicy Season Sisters, which is a group of four women, and we come together. We will align together and we share how to own our authenticity at this big age. We speak to a community of women that are 40 plus, and we empower our community to do just that, embrace where they are and who they are and learn and grow in this spicy bowl season because Ricky, men and women, we all are aging. And I don't know how it works for men, but I know over here we deal with menopause and all other kind of things that didn't really get talked about. So we open up the conversation in our weekly podcast that happens on Thursdays nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. And we open up the taboo conversations that are not often talked about in our community or amongst women or aging women. So our conversations are very transparent, very different. We have a good time, and we take a comedic approach sometimes to some difficult conversations to allow our community to feel comfortable and understand that it is a safe place. And, we'll be that tribe. If you don't have your tribe to help encourage you through this big age in your spicy season, that is exactly what we are. And they could easily follow us on YouTube if they visit www.spicyseasonsisterspodcast.com. That will take them directly to our YouTube channel. And we would love for you to like and subscribe and share.
You know what? I encourage anybody, not just women, but I would encourage anybody to tune into your show because one thing I do know about your show is y'all ain't scared.
At
Y'all ain't
all.
scared to talk about nothing. I mean, I laughed one time when y'all came on with fedoras. I'm a fan of fedoras. Y'all came on with the fedoras and y'all was just airing it out. Those are the things I think are important. So I hope everybody's listening and I hope everybody understands that there are people out here that are really trying to make a positive impact. I mean, I know negativity gets a lot of attention. I'm not even in denial on that.
No.
But I got to say thank you to you just for being honest. And I want to say thank you to everybody that's listening because my podcast, you're not going to get a lot of, I would call it negativity. I'm not,
Mhm.
if you're looking for negativity, this is probably not the show you want to watch. Yes, we will talk about bad things that have happened. Yes, I mean, I understand that that's part of this deal called life, but
Mhm.
I like to focus on the positive, and positive people don't get enough attention, in my opinion. So I'm gonna do my part to try to go out and find as many positive people as I can that has been through trials and tribulation and adversity, and they figured out a way to turn it into a positive. And that's what you're doing. Is there anybody else out there you wanna acknowledge at this time? Because you
Well,
acknowledge
first of all,
the ladies.
I want to acknowledge you, Ricky, and to say thank you to rendering your inspiration and experiences to the world because you are truly helping people. We were brought together by a mutual friend. I love her dearly, Carla Thomas. She is from Greenville, Texas.
That's my homegirl.
And Carla, she was on with you at another recording, but another positive person that impacts me tremendously, how she's just open and willing supports people. My brother has played a tremendous part in my professional development and helped me through, both of us, we lost our mom, and the way that he just, helped me and drew up as much strength as he had during dealing with his own, loss, to help me through and to get me to where I am today. He continues to push me. I don't always like that now, but he he continues to be the big brother and he continues to push me and support me. So, it is such a community and tribe of people that support me and the women that I help. And it's people like you that avail this type of opportunity so that we can share strength and hope with the world. Because, as you said, the world is only offering despair and confusion and chaos at this time. And we have to find the light. We have to go to the light. We have to identify and understand that we need that light. And because we're more alike than not. And we've all been on similar journeys, just in to different magnitudes. So the help is here. Take the help. Don't be afraid to reach out, because life can change in an instant. One decision could change your life forever.
I totally agree. I want to first of all say thank you for the nice, kind words on my behalf. That means a lot to me. Uh, I want people to know that my day job is I'm a speaker, and I
Mhm.
travel all over the country trying to uplift people. It doesn't necessarily have to be any specific group. I'm very comfortable talking to any group. So if anybody's interested out there in having me come and speak, just rickycsimmons.com. You'll find all the tabs you need to locate me. But I just want y'all to know that my mission is to uplift people. One of my main topics is redemption is possible,
Mhm.
because a lot of times our society, once we make these terrible choices, society likes to throw you away as if you have
Mhm.
no more value. And I know for a fact that Gail does the same thing. She lifts people up. She goes out of her way to try to help others. I can relate to people like that, because to me, we need more of that. I mean, we
Mhm.
get plenty of the other, so why can't we balance it out a little bit and put more of the positive out there to try to encourage others? So I want everybody to think about that. Um, Again, I just want to say thank you, Gail, for taking time to be a part of this, and we're going to continue to do positive things. And don't think I forgot. I'm gonna look forward to being on your shows as well. So please
Absolutely.
don't forget me there. Well, again, I want to wrap the show up again by thanking my guest, Gail Benson. You're really a special person, and I want you to know that coming from me,
Sure.
because unfortunately, when you're doing positive things, you don't get the attention that negative gets. So I try to give everybody grace, and I try to give everybody compliments when they're doing positive things. And I'll close by saying this: every day that you're blessed to see, you got to look like somebody, and you got to do that for yourself. Thank y'all. Please stay tuned for future shows, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again, Gail.
Thank you, Ricky. It's an honor. Thank you.